join the living. And a demon is that wish gone wrong.
Is there a way to coexist? To live with them? If not in peace, at least without such active confrontation.
Not in the world we know today. The veil creates a barrier that makes true understanding most unlikely. But the question is a good one, and it matters that you thought to ask.
We'll talk later.
Goodbye.
Stone Mat, Inquisitor.
Do you have insight into the stories these tiles are supposed to depict?
Tell you what, you finish one, and I'll write it up. Who better, right? A good dwarven perspective.
Where did you learn your skills?
Orzammar. Carved a few statues in my day. And before you ask, yes, I chose to leave. I carved a paragon who turned out to be a sodding madwoman. Couldn't stand looking at her. The memory of a dwarf, right?
Another time.
Best of the vein, Inquisitor. Inquisitor.
Could be better. Hello again.
Do you have any advice for me?
Watch the new recruits. Liliana says spies are inevitable, and I agree. Your worship?
Can you think of any other tasks suitable for the Chargers?
Nothing jumps out at me. If I come up with any ideas, I'll let you know.
I'd like to know more about the Iron Bull.
The Chief. First time I met him, he saved my life. I never thought I'd work for a Canary, but he grows on you. He's not like any commander I've ever worked for. That's for damn sure.
How's Iron Bull as a commander?
If you know what you're doing and hold up your end, he's easy. He doesn't accept any less. He keeps us alive, he leads from the front, and if you've an idea that'll win the fight, he listens. I've seen bands whose captains had to prove they were swinging the biggest sword. Bull isn't like that. The Chargers might give him more lip than you'd expect, but every one of us would lay down our lives for the big ass.
How did a Tevinter soldier wind up in a Kunari spy's mercenary company?
I wasn't a soldier at the time. I was in some trouble, trying to flee Tevinter. A Tribune and his men caught me in a border town tavern. They meant to make an example of me. Bull killed them. Gave up his eye doing it. Patched me up and asked if I was looking for work. I've been putting up with his jokes ever since.
That's how he lost the eye?
Yes. The guards had me on the tavern floor when Bull came inside and yelled for them to stop. One of them saw trouble coming and figured he'd finish me off. The guard had a flare. Bull put himself between me and the blow. Big horned idiot. Didn't even know me.
Is it strange to work for a Kunari?
He hasn't tried to convert us to the Qun, if that's what you're asking. Bull's Chargers don't care who you light a candle for, so long as your shield stays up. If he hadn't told me he was Ben Hasroth, I'd have thought he'd left that life behind.
I didn't expect he'd tell you all that he was a spy.
Not the whole band, but those who've been around long enough to trust. He figures most of us would find out sooner or later, and it should come from him. Eyes to eye, he says. It's never messed up a job. He just writes letters back home. Lots of the boys write letters back home.
We'll talk later.
Your worship?
Can we talk about the Bull's Chargers?
Best company you'll find from here to the Anderfells. In my time with the Chief, we've gone up against everything from bandits to magic trees. We're expensive, but you'll never doubt we're worth it. Want to know anything in particular?
Do the Chargers specialize in anything from a tactical standpoint?
Bull doesn't want us large enough to work as an army. We're better as shock troops to skirmishers. We've got archers for hitting enemy infantry, Dalish with more archery, and Skinner and her people on the flanks. Rocky handles fortifications and traps, and Stitches keeps us all fighting. They mostly hold back. I'll lead the frontline fighters with Grim, and the Chief goes wherever he can hit something.
You said something about everything from bandits to magic trees. I'll admit to some curiosity.
Right. Sylvans. That's what Dalish called them. Apparently spirits can possess trees, too. Some noble in the Dales, and they really don't like it when you call them Dalish nobles, had a haunted forest. His family had abandoned the land, but he wanted it back. The chief bought us all axes, and in we went. Between the axes and the torches, the Sylvans weren't too bad. Worst part was the squirrels.
Are there rules for how mercenaries operate?
If you don't want some noble to treat you like bandits, yes. There's also a code of conduct most companies hold to. Keeps things civilized on the battlefield. We accept surrenders for ransom from mercenaries, nobles, and soldiers wearing a lord's colors. Our prisoners are treated well, injuries tended. We'd want the same for any of ours who got captured.
We'll talk later.
Inquisitor?
I wanted to talk about you, if that's all right.
You know, I'm from Tevinter. Wasn't a slave, but even citizens have it rough if they're not mages. I was a soldier, but women joined the ranks under a different program. When they found out I was passing, it got ugly. I ran, at ball near the border, and ended up here. Not a life I'd wish on everyone, but it'll do.
Why did you decide to live as a man?
I didn't decide anything. I've been like this my whole life. My parents wanted me to marry up. They tried to find me a nice merchant's son. Every day, put on a dress, look into my father's shaving mirror, and just hate myself.
You said you left Tevinter when they discovered your secret.
Women are allowed to serve, but only in certain ranks and disciplines. I was up for promotion, but the healer I'd bribed to sign off on my physical had to tend to a sick magister. When the replacement healer saw what was or wasn't in my paths, he made threats. It was slavery or death, so I knocked him out and ran.
I'm surprised you escaped from the Tevinter Imperium so easily.
It's not like I lived in Minrathous. I was in Trevis, not far from the Navaran border. It helped that I was being chased as a deserter, not a runaway slave. Slave hunters only get paid for what they catch. They're efficient bastards.
It's against the law to pass as a man.
It's a crime to lie on an imperial application for service. Would have been a heavy fine or slavery. For 10 silvers, the healer said he'd tell the Tribune I was sick in the head. Some pity for the mad little girl. That was when I hit him. I'd served for a few years. I was good at hitting.
What's Tevinter like for a citizen? Someone who isn't a slave or a mage?
I'm of the Separati, citizens who aren't mages. Mages are in charge and everyone knows it. But a wealthy merchant can have an easy life. At the low end, people just try to stay out of slavery. My father was a tailor. I joined the army after the Imperial slaves drove him under.
How did slaves drive your family out of business?
My father made shirts, aprons, that kind of thing. Nothing fancy. One of the magisters had a pet project to prevent the poor from dying of cold in the winter. Nice, right? He had Imperial slaves making simple peasant clothes and selling them for almost nothing. That magister's nice idea put out slave-made clothes at prices my father couldn't match.
It's difficult to compete with someone who doesn't get paid.
That's Tevinter. My father sold himself into slavery. He's one of the Servus Publicus, the Imperium-owned slaves now.
We'll talk.
Your worship?
We'll talk later.
Hey, you need me?
I'd like to know more about your work with the Ben Hasrath.
Ben Hasrath is actually a general term. You've got the secret police who investigate problems inside our territory. You've got the re-educators who take people with problems and fix their minds. Or make them disappear. And then you've got the spies.
And you're a spy.
Close. I am now, I suppose. But that's not how I started. They sent me to Saharan because they needed someone who could fight and hunt down problems. That whole island was a sack of cats. Incursions from Tevinter, Tal Vashath, and native rebels fighting both sides. And in the middle, me. trying to wrangle the rebels and restore order.
You seem like the type who enjoys a good fight.
There's a good fight, and there's finding out who put rat poison in the bread and killed a bunch of children. I hunted down a lot of rebels, lost a lot of friends to the Vince, or the Fog Warriors, or the Talvashah. One day I woke up and couldn't think of a damned reason to keep doing my job. Turned myself into the re-educators.
You'd heard what the re-educators did to their prisoners.
Yes, I had. I wanted them to fix me like they fixed them. The Ben Hasrath ordered me to go to Orlais, ostensibly as a Talvashah, and work undercover. That's how I ended up here.
Thanks for the information, Bull.
No problem, boss. Anyway, nice talking with you. Come on, Krem. I'm working my ass off trying to get you to see that move.
You still got plenty of arse left, Chief. Your worship.
Glad you came by. I got a letter from my contacts in the Ben Hasrath. Already verified it with Red.
What did the letter say?
The Ben Hasrath have been reading my reports. They don't like Corypheus or his Venatori. And they really don't like Red Lyrium. They're ready to work with us. With you, boss. The Qunari and the Inquisition, joining forces.
That would be an unprecedented offer if I believed it was legitimate, which I don't.
Now, ordinarily that would be the way to go, but they've identified themselves. They're not running a game on you. They found a massive Red Lyrium shipping operation out on the coast.
They wanted us to hit it together. Talked about bringing in one of their dreadnoughts. Always wanted to see one of those big war ships in action.
Did you see that? Go get some water. They're worried about tipping the smugglers, so no army. My charges, you, maybe some backup.
You don't seem entirely happy about this.
No, I'm good. It's... I'm used to them being over there. It's been a while.
I thought the Qunari wanted to extend their reach to the whole world.
Yeah. Just didn't think I'd see it. Look, the Qun answers a lot of questions. It's a good life for a lot of people. But it's a big change. And a lot of folks here wouldn't do so well under that kind of life. I guess it's not like we're converting. This is just us joining forces against Corypheus. On that front, I think we're good.
What does this alliance really get us?
They wouldn't use the word alliance if they didn't mean it. Naval power. More Ben Hasrath reports. Qunari soldiers pointed at the Venatori. It could do a lot of good.
I think the Inquisition could use some help from the Qunari.
Good. I'll pass on word to Cullen and Red. We can set up the meeting whenever you're ready.
Hello again.
That's enough for now.
Another time, then.
Your worship?
Can you think of any other tasks suitable for the chargers?
Nothing jumps out at me. If I come up with any ideas, I'll let you know.
We'll talk later.
Hey, you need me?
Can you tell me more about Saharon?
It was a damn ugly place. Only getting uglier when I left. Between the Fog Warriors, the Talvashah, my people, and the Vince. You were lucky to go a day without blood. What do you want to know?
What are things like for the natives of Saharon?
I remember one guy. He made these things. Fish wrapped in thin bread. Nice guy. Talked to him every morning. So, One time I'm asking about his back.